All right, guys, what is up? You are back for another video with Datazero. This is your weekly outlook and prediction for stocks and crypto. This video is not financial advice, should not be taken as such. Please do your own research and due diligence for buying any stock or crypto asset. Now, that being said, let's go ahead and hop into charts, facts, data showing you what is going on for this week. Now, ladies and gentlemen, things are getting crazy, and I don't want to be doom and gloom, but I have to tell you what the charts are saying, and things could get ugly. We're going to break it all down. Also, the story that no one's talking about. Let's go ahead and get into it now. Meme stocks, stock market, crypto. You already know. Like and subscribe if you haven't. So the first thing we have to start off with, this is something that nobody is talking about. Breaking news. No one's talking about this, but things between the USA and Venezuela are not cooling down, and we might even see a possible military operation as the U.S. show of force in the region continues to ramp up. Okay, we have more warships coming into the region, and we have Trump weighing the options of a potential military operation. So things are not cooling down. Nobody's talking about this, and this would be extremely bearish and overall bad if we started to see this. But I don't want to get too conspiracy with things, but at the steps we're at, war is kind of the next stage. You're going to see conflicts happening. So this is something you need to have on your radar, in my personal opinion, and it seems like nobody is talking about this. Now, also, we'll go ahead and get into the crypto news after, but we're going to talk about the ETFs. But let's go ahead and hop into AMC and GME to show you guys what's going on. Now, you have to remember that the overall market could be pulling back, and it could pull these assets down with it. Now, I broke down in other videos why I believe that if we had a huge capitulation, there is a chance where you could see margin calls, and I broke that all down with facts in another video. I'll try to find it and link that video, but I broke it all down there on why I believe that you could potentially see margin calls if SPY had a major pullback, and I showed you guys all the facts and data behind that. But overall, what you would see is a drawdown before that happens. So you would see the overall assets draw down with the market and then begin to pull back. And then if you saw a margin call, spring up. And that would be very, very similar to what you saw back here when both AMC and GME hit new lows. So AMC hitting 238 and spiked to the upside, and then GME hitting a low of about $9 and then spiking to the upside, $9.95 right here, and then spiking to the upside. We saw something similar to that where they just kept trending down, 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 down for quite some time after the big major run-ups, and then hit a low and then sprung to the upside. Now, I'm going to break down what's going on with AMC and GME. They're both in very, very peculiar spots right now, and things could get ugly. I'm not going to lie to you guys. So we could see continued downside here on AMC. So you guys can see that we're not yet oversold in the daily time frame. Once we start to get into that territory, that will be when more buyers definitely step in, and when we know that we're going to see a potential bounce. But we could see some more downside for AMC if we lose the key level of $2.25. We want to hold this level. Now, signs of recovery I'm looking at here for AMC. If AMC is able to break back above the key level of $2.30. If we can break and hold that level, there's a chance for recovery. We also have a small gap fill here on the daily time frame. There's a very small gap fill here, but it's on the daily time frame, so that's important, at 232 all the way up to 233. So about a 1 cent gap fill here on the daily time frame. That gap will get filled, and we also have this bullish hammer candle. Now, the thing I'm worried about, I know AMC is going to get a bounce because, and I'll break it down in SPY, the overall market's going to get a bounce as well, and I'll break it down on what we're looking at. But the question is, are we going to get a bounce and then reject from this trend line and then continue down? Okay, because until we get above this trend line, breaking this overall downtrend that we've been in after the last previous rally that we had, we've been in an overall downtrend. Unless we break above that sloping support and resistance, AMC will not be able to recover. So we got to watch this. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. That way you can get these technicals. I go live all the time. You can get all this stuff as it's happening. But until we break above this sloping support and resistance here, we will continue down. We came up and retested it here, rejected down. Now we do have signs of recovery, and I do think AMC will recover in the beginning half of the week. And this is what I mean by things could get ugly. But based off the overall market, we're potentially going to see drawdown in the later half of the week, which could cause assets to pull back like AMC and GME. So I know we're going to see some recovery back to the upside, maybe even filling that gap fill, which would be a tragedy. We want to leave it up there until we're ready to recover. But the question is, will AMC be able to break above and hold that? If not, you're going to see a movement to the downside. And then if we lose 225, what you're going to see is $2.15 and $2 as the next potential price targets. I told you guys as soon as we lose 238, you're going to see a move straight to 225. That's exactly what happened. And we're bouncing off of that level, which means we're most likely going to recover. But the question is, can we break above about 245 and hold that level and then continue up? Or are we going to reject down and have to see levels of like $2.15 and $2? The reason why this is happening is they're trying to push it as low as possible heading into that December 10th date. Again, with AMC, that December 10th date, in my personal opinion, many people have different feelings about this, but it's going to be a kill shot. Doubling the float would be horrendous, okay? And I know all the different arguments. I'm not going to break that down in this video about it's not all at once and all of that stuff. I broke that down in many other videos. But to me, based off everything, it's going to be basically the end, because they're going to be able to kick the can down the road. They're going to be able to get liquidity whenever they need it. And we've seen what happens when they dilute. The price just continues to go down. I have all the places where they diluted here on AMC, and the price just continues to go down when they sell these shares or do ape conversions or reverse splits. It's not good for us, and it's not good for retail holders. So I believe that another 550 million shares would be devastating, and they're trying to push it down as low as possible into that. And that way, once they get to that point, they'll be able to get even more liquidity, kick the can down the road, and unfortunately drive it down even lower. And again, I don't want to be doom and gloom, but this is what's happening. So the question is, can AMC break back above 245 and hold that level, showing signs of recovery? If we do hold that level, we could see some pops to the upside. We do have these gap fills, but things could get ugly. GameStop is at the key levels of the floor of $20 to $18. I told you guys this floor was very, very important. I don't think that GameStop is going to be losing this floor. And it looks like GameStop is going to be holding it because we have all of these buy orders here. But we still, just like AMC, could see a little bit more downside. Now, the peculiar thing about GameStop, when the market was dumping last week, it was holding up relatively well. Also, RSI on the daily time frame is already oversold. So this is a good indication that GameStop will be able to hold that $18 to $20 floor. Now, again, with GameStop, things could get ugly. Why? Because if we lose that $18 to $20 floor, you're going to see $17.50, $15, and it's going to do what AMC did, dump down to it almost right away. Now, I don't think GameStop loses this floor because we're already in the oversold territory in the daily time frame. And you guys can see we have all of these buy orders here. This has remained the floor since the big movement to the upside after we hit our lows. It's holding the level. There's so many people buying here. I believe GameStop holds this floor. Okay. And if GameStop holds this floor, we have multiple gap fills to the upside all the way here at $29.40 to $29.65. I believe that if GameStop gets a bounce similar to what you've seen here, every time that GameStop starts to move up, and I'll show you guys what I mean here. After hitting these low levels, what happens? We get these rallies to the upside towards that $30 level. Every time we rally up, we come back down, we hit a floor, we rally up. We come back down, we hit that floor, we rally up. We are now in that floor, that liquidity pocket, and that is a good place for buyers to step in, buy low, and then have your rally up. And that's why we have these sell orders up here at about $28 to $27, because they're getting ready for this rally. Now, if GameStop does rally up, that could help AMC recover as well. And they are definitely expecting something because they loaded up on short shares on AMC. You guys can see right now here on AMC at time of recording, 6.1 million short shares. Okay, so they're loading up and they're waiting for something. Cost to borrow sitting at 0.47%. We want to see that cost to borrow go higher. The higher the cost to borrow, the better it is for us. It's also signs of potential bullishness if the cost to borrow goes over 1% or higher. You guys can see 2.4 million short shares here for GME at a cost to borrow of 0.49%. Cost to borrow has been spiking up for GME. That is a very good sign that we could potentially see some bullishness. Now, some other news that I talked about here on GME, the GME warrants, guys, up to 1 million warrants here on some of these days on FTDs, okay? Up to 1 million FTDs on some of these days on the GME warrants. These warrants are building up FTDs Why do warrants even have FTDs? Explain to me how this is happening. Something is building in the background, ladies and gentlemen. I don't want to get too tinfoil hat, but those FTDs will have to come due, and that is going to be bullish pressure later down the road, okay? So those FTDs will have to get fulfilled. I believe GME has a good chance to break above its sloping support and resistance, get a bounce off this $20 to $18 level, and then push up. Now, unfortunately, we could be seeing red weeks here for AMC and GME if we don't get back above the key levels. GME needs to get back above 21.50, and AMC needs to get back above at least $2.30 and then push to that 245 level to prove to me that it's going to be recovering before continuing down to a lower low. And GME needs to do the same thing because GME could come down to that $18 level if it doesn't get back above 21.50 and hold that level. If we do hold that, you could see a pop to the upside. So this is what we're looking at for the meme stocks. I do think we're going to see recovery in the beginning half of the week. But the later half of the week could be bearish. So Monday, Tuesday, potential bullishness here for AMC and GME. And then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, potentially start moving into more bearish territory where we could see those potential lower lows. GME 18 and AMC at 215. Okay, so this is what we're looking at. Again, it could get ugly for the stock market. Even if you don't hold SPY or invest in SPY or trade SPY, you should pay attention to this because SPY and NASDAQ control the overall market. But we're going to go ahead and move into that segment of things, show you guys what's going on there, and then we'll head into the cryptocurrency section. So again, going back to the news in the beginning, nobody's talking about this stuff in Venezuela. It's getting very crazy. Also, I don't know what you guys think about this, but Trump had Ken Griffin here, of all people, in the Oval Office with him, and then he had a dinner with all of these people and top executives, and then the next day, markets start to tank, ladies and gentlemen. So I don't know what you guys think about this. Was this planned? What do you think is going on? Let me know in the comments down below, but that's just some information that I thought you guys should know. And then also the Venezuela thing, things are definitely heating up. And if we do go into full type of conflict where we're putting troops on the ground or artillery is being used, it's going to be bearish all around. It's going to be negative. Except for a few people, obviously, will profit it, like Raytheon and stuff like that. But it's going to be negative for the overall economy and definitely bearish. And this is something that nobody's talking about. Maybe that's why they're releasing all these files and stuff right now, trying to distract us. But without getting too crazy and too off the rails, this is the news you need to know. And then we also might have some potential data drops because the government's coming back into play. So we should be getting these data drops, FOMC minutes, building permits, housing starts, nothing real crazy. And then we have exiting home sales. So nothing real crazy this week. All of the good data they said we're not getting, and that stuff's all passed. So you have to also wonder what's going on with that. Again, without getting too much into conspiracy, why are they hiding that previous couple months data? And was the government shutdown more strategic for other things? So you just really have to ask yourself these questions. Now, SPY, I believe, is going to recover, like I said in the beginning of the video. I believe it's going to recover to the upside. I believe we're going to see SPY push to at least 676.08. So that's a price target that I have for this week. And if we can hold that level, then SPY could push as high as 679 or 680. I do believe we're going to see a recovery, but I believe what we're going to see is a lower high. You guys can see ever since that correction down after we broke down out of this bear flag, you guys can see we've been making lower highs and in an overall downtrend. I believe this is going to continue. This is going to confuse a lot of people because they're looking at it on the short term and they're seeing SPY rip and they're going to get all confused. Why is it so bullish? But in the end, most likely SPY is going to come up, make a lower high, and continue an overall macro downtrend. You guys can see daily MACD starting to go red. You can see RSI trending down as price trends up. This is bearish divergence on the daily time frame, which means price is going to flatten out and correct down. Well, guess what? Price is already in that flattening out process. It's about to correct down. And this is why I said it could get really ugly. Crypto's dumping right now. I believe that we're going to see more downside for the overall market, but we're going to see a little bit recovery first, heading back to at least 676.06. But then we will be pulling back to the downside. Now, we could go as high as 680 if we do hold key levels. But again, we could be seeing what overall will amount to is a rally to the upside, making a lower high and pulling back. I believe Monday and Tuesday are going to be bullish, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, potentially heading back into that bearish territory. But I do believe SPY is going to recover here in the beginning. You guys can see it's almost making a little bit of a double bottom. Now, if it is able to get way up here at like 685 and hold that as support, it could push up crazy. But I don't think that's what we're going to see. I think what we're seeing here is an overall topping of the market, believe it or not, where we're going to see a decent correction down. And then from there, we could potentially go up. But I believe overall, the market is topping. That bearish divergence on the daily time frame is nothing to play with. You guys can see it very, very clearly. RSI trending down means momentum is fading. And then that RSI trending down while price trend is up is bearish divergence. That means price is going to flatten out and correct down. Again, it could take a little bit for this process to continue, but most likely I think we're already in that flattening out process, and you could literally see it here with the price, which means we're going to see a correction down here soon. You can also see that the weekly MACD, the weekly momentum is starting to fade as well, and you guys can see this is actually almost going into the red territory, which leads me to believe that we're actually seeing a potential top here for the overall market and the AI bubble potentially getting to the point where it can pop. I know that sounds crazy. I know people think that the market's unstoppable at this point, but it's been driven by AI hype. The concentration of everything being indexes is a sign of a bubble and sign of an unhealthy market. And this is just not normal. I think anybody who can look from zooming out can see that the market is way, way overvalued. Everything is very, very expensive. Prices need to come down, and we've literally been going parabolic. All bull runs have to come to an end. And you can see here on the monthly time frame here, normally when we get to these high overbought territories here on the RSI, you guys can see here, we had this correction, overbought here, overbought, we had this correction here. We're in that overbought territory with the RSI starting to curl down. You guys can see when it starts to curl down, that's normally when the correction starts. So I believe we're actually potentially going to see a bigger correction here for SPY. And that's why I said things could get ugly. Now, it's going to confuse a lot of people because we're going to be bullish in the beginning of the week, maybe even all the way up until Wednesday. But I believe personally what we're going to see is a lower high and a pullback to the downside for SPY, creating an overall downtrend on the macro. So this is what we're looking at for SPY in the overall market. Let's go ahead and move into crypto, show you guys what's going on there, and wrap up this video. So Bitcoin is literally testing the trend line right now for the bull market support. Okay, so if we break below this, it could get ugly. Okay, Fractal saying we potentially get a bounce and break down, or break down from here, and then we find a floor around 67 to 75K. Those would be my ultimate bearish price targets if BTC were to come down and break down. I believe that we're going to use the previous bull market top as the next bear market bottom. So I believe 70 to 60K is where BTC would find a floor if we do dump below this trend line. But things are so oversold right now that it looks like we potentially could be seeing a bounce. Also, look at the fear and greed. We're hitting almost all-time lows for extreme fear. We have to be nearing a bottom. I know it seems like it could just dump, and crypto is very, very volatile, but we have to be nearing some type of bottom where we're going to see a potential bounce. Now, the question is it going to bounce like SPY and make a lower high and then come down? That's going to be the question. I'll be watching key levels to see what's going on. Fractal does say that this is potentially it, and the mini bear market is going to be coming into play. Basically, we come down into these lower levels, and then we pop back to the upside, making a higher high, and then we go into a deeper bear market if the fractal were to continue. Of course, I'll be looking at technicals as well, but this fractal has been tracking very, very well throughout this whole entire bull run, so I expect it to continue to track. Now, again, we're right now testing the trend line. If we break below this trend line, that means the bull market is over, in my personal opinion. This trend line has been holding ever since the original run-up, all the way from the lows of 15K. So I believe that if we lose this trend line, then that is going to be the end of the bull market for BTC. Now, if BTC pulls back, other key altcoins are going to be pulling back with it. You have to remember, Bitcoin dominance is still way too high for it not to be controlling the market, 57.3%. So you could see a potential pullback on these other altcoins as well, including the top altcoins. Now, these are getting into buy zones in my personal opinion. Like anything under $2.50, a good buy for XRP. If you can get under $2, that's a steal in my personal opinion. XRP is kind of holding a floor and holding up a little bit better. You guys can see that we have these buy orders here as well. It's kind of holding up a little bit better because we have some news of the XRP ETFs coming out. There is an XRP ETF on the NASDAQ. It's a spot ETF. If you guys haven't heard, it's XRPC, and it is pulling in money. Despite it pulling back here, it is pulling in money and doing some decent numbers. So that is going to be overall bullish. This is why I think we could see a potential bounce as well. There's just too many bullish things going on that if we were to pull back even more, that is just a buying opportunity in my personal opinion. Maybe I'm too bullish on crypto, but me, I'm stacking it for the long term. And if I do see it come down to lows, I will be picking up some more. Most of the ETFs that were going to get pushed through in October because the government shut down, they got delayed. The SEC is now fast tracking the processes and starting to get these things and clearing out their backlog. So we could see even more ETFs come. And remember, there was ETFs for like Solana, Litecoin, Doge. So they had spot ETFs for all of those and then several XRP ETFs as well. So we could see a lot more ETFs coming on the market and then increase overall buying power as well. So with all these bullish things going on, also Trump saying how he wants to continue to make this the crypto capital of the world. As you guys can see, he's still talking about this and he said it in a speech. So there's too many bullish underlying fundamentals for me to be bearish long-term here on cryptocurrency. All right. I don't think it's going anywhere. I don't think it's doom and gloom like everyone's saying. We're in so much fear right now that we have to be nearing a bottom. And again, always do the opposite of the herd. Be greedy when others are fearful. Be fearful when others are greedy. These are normally very good signals. And right now it's telling us to be greedy. So I think we're going to see a potential bounce here for BTC. I think we're going to bounce off of the trend line, and that's going to take your favorite altcoins with it. But the question is from there, do we just bounce up and crash down, or can we continue out of this thing? It looks like we might crash down, so you just want to be aware of that. And again, like and subscribe because we've been very, very accurate here on BTC. We called for the 115 and 125 price targets way back. And then we also called for 80 and 100K way down here while people were talking about 10K. So we've been very, very accurate here on the crypto market, and we give you guys the news that you need. But again, I think we could see a potential recovery, something similar to SPY, some bullishness in the beginning half of the week, maybe when the market opens. It looks like Bitcoin's kind of bouncing right now. And after hitting these lows, BTC coming all the way down to about 93, 92K. So this is kind of crazy, ladies and gentlemen. We're kind of getting a bounce off of that now. But the question is, do we continue up and then or correct down? I think we might see a correction down. So just be aware of that. We hit these lows of 92.9. I think BTC is going to come up and retest some support, try to push back up towards 100K. If we can hold 100K and push up off of there, that could be a sign of recovery. But if we reject off 100K, that is going to be a very, very bearish signal. So this is what we're looking at for BTC, the overall crypto market. This was your weekly outlook and prediction for stocks and crypto. If you managed to watch this whole entire video, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I know this was a long one, but if you did, that really helps me with the algorithm. If you want to help the channel, just hit like, subscribe, leave a comment down below. We also have a merch store and other ways to support as well, like super chats on the live stream. But if you don't want to do anything like that, again, just hit that like, share, and subscribe. And as always, y'all, make sure you do this most of all. Have fun, stay safe, make money. Peace out, fam.